So tonight, if you've been to this before, it's sort of big in scope. I like to take a theme and then show it throughout the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament. That's really I feel like that's my calling as a teacher, show how the two, which are often seen as separate. I know when I was growing up, some of you have heard my testimony. Most of you know I was raised in a traditional conservative Jewish community. And Kay reminded me of this at a talk I was giving that she had asked me to give, that she had heard me say once. But it is true that the rabbis used to say we would have a Bible in Hebrew, or a traditional one that was made for us. And I remember in class once at the Hebrew school that someone said, well, what if we don't have one? What do we do? Can we use an English Bible? And the rabbi said, you can if it's an emergency or you really need one, you can. He said, but you need to understand these people have come along and put terrible lies on the backside of our Bible. So the way you know what is safe for you to read is if you turn the page and you see anything written in red, as if a man spoke and was equated with God, you stop reading. Never, never, never look at the red letters. And so I believed they were completely separate. I actually, and many of you have heard that it was actually John Cernick when I came here. It's an unshackled testimony. And I think that's floating around, but I can get you a copy if you haven't heard the radio version of that story. But he was the first one who said, what do you know about Jesus? And I said, nothing, but why would I? That's for you. That's not for us. I was taught that the two are completely separate, but of course it's one story. So in everything that I teach, and that includes tonight, I try to show the Old Testament verses and then what Jesus said about it, and then where the prophecy is going, where we've been, where we are now, and where we are headed in the future, the very soon future. So tonight, we're going to look at the vine and the vineyard. And one aspect we'll begin with is the branch itself. Of course, a branch can be part of a tree, but it can also be, and it is in this case, and all of this, if you look through the Old Testament, the New Testament words, you're going to see so many references. Just think about how many times, if you include trees and branches, vines and vineyards, this is such a common recurring theme throughout the scriptures. And I believe it's because God wants us to understand the relationship, our relationship to him, our plan for redemption. And redemption is not, as we were even talking about that, it's not a one-time moment only. And I guess you're in ministry, you got to get yourself fed. You've got to draw, all of us, prayer warriors. If we have one moment in time, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, and we're out here on our own, boy, we wilt fast. We cannot do it on our own. So I believe the vine, the vineyard, this is a picture of how we are supposed to understand our relationship to God. The first one I have here is in, let's see if I put it on there. It's in Zechariah 3:8, and the slides get a little better. But this is something that, when Jesus came, the people truly understood what his parables and other things we're talking about. In Zechariah 3:8, he talks about a wondrous sign that is coming. And here is the thing I want to focus on. For behold, I am bringing forth my servant, the branch. And so Jesus, the Messiah, before he was actually incarnate on the earth, was referred to as my branch. And this is then from that point on in Zechariah, and if you're steeped in it like I am, you understand the big picture is, again, after Genesis 12, the God put that H from himself, the great YHVH, in Avram to make him Avraham. And somewhere along the line, this mentality came that they were sort of bulletproof. The descendants of the Jews, even today I hear this all the time. Hashem, the name, God will step in for us. He will take care of our enemies. All true, but not meant, as we hear today, as fire insurance. Like, meant that you are called, you have responsibility, you have to go forth. And so this concept of the Messiah coming and rescuing in Zechariah's time, when you really read Zechariah, it's one of the most powerful books. The very first line is given in Hebrew. It says, my hope through my blood. It's just 3 names, but the names mean my hope through my blessed one and my men, the people that I've called, and I will act. And it's necessary because the worst had happened. They didn't think it could happen. They were brought into captivity. And not only that, the temple. The temple it seemed impossible. It could never happen. And yet Zechariah is the one that gets this prophecy at the lowest point, and he is also given a vision, not of the first, which was, of course, stop me or write your questions at the end, but Moses got the detailed plans of the tabernacle. King David wrote it out on scrolls, gathered all the materials. It's incredible. It's called Solomon's temple. He built it. Magnificent. One of the 7 wonders of the world. Could not possibly be touched. Completely destroyed. And that's where Zechariah, his ministry comes in at a time where what hope could there be? I mean, if you read Nehemiah, you realize the people went back. They even finally got some back. No power at all. They're just sitting there. They can't make it happen. So this message and this promise of my branch was meant, and the Jews knew it, and they carried it forward. That branch is power. It's speaking of the coming Messiah. He will deliver us. And again, in English, it sounds crazy. You wouldn't think someone would say a branch, but it's a speaking of all this, the branch of God, the power, the shoot coming up, just like the H from his name needed to. So then we go to the Isaiah 4:2 verse, and he connects the branch with the vine, with the fruit. These concepts. In that day, Isaiah 4:2, the branch of the Lord shall be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and appealing for those of Israel who have escaped. This is a separate teaching, so we'll get into it because I'm always asked, there was how many temples? Who saw the vision of them? Ezekiel measured one. Is that the next one? No. Ezekiel measured one that's going to be huge. And the short answer is, because why does he say for those of Israel who have escaped? Where we escaped from? Where we escaped to? What time period? So you got to put all these in like a chronological sequence. But the branch of the Lord being glorious and beautiful, and the fruit of the earth for those who have escaped, it was such a powerful message throughout the Old Testament that to this day, every single Sabbath, we say, if my brother was here, he could sing it, but Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen, who has given us the fruit of the earth. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who gave us this promise, the fruit of the earth. Well, fruit does not spring up. It does. You guys, anybody, it's in Louisiana. You cannot have, like you walk out your door and, let's say a tomato, that's a piece of fruit. Fruit. You got to till the earth. You got to plant something. I remember 100 times I've done it. Then you got to get the bugs out. And you can lose all that fruit. But the promise is still there. And if I were to slow it down and go through this, like through the 6,000 years of Jewish history, you would see there have been many, many times. There's a fantastic book that was put out recently, and it shows the 1900 to, maybe the middle of the century or something, the same locations in Israel. The photographs are taken. It is a desert. It's mid-1800s to mid-1900s. It is nothing there. The fruit of the earth that was promised ain't happening. It's just dry and desert. Mark Twain said this is a God-forsaken land. Who can live here? But when the Jews returned and they began tilling it, and then you take a picture of the same place, they export agricultural produce. They're one of the largest exporters in the world. It came alive again. And this is also, again, a picture of us. The whole message here is dwelling and abiding, which I'll get to, in God. When you're doing as we need to do, not just following the rules or, a legalistic kind of thing, but when you're really drawing from God and you're in Him and connected to Him, you're living. People feel the Spirit, see it in you, you're alive, you bear much fruit. Yes. But when you are, like the Jews are struggling with this, remember these prophecies have been given. If you just even go back, to, let's say, to King David, the golden age, that's 1000 BC, that's 3,000 years ago. You want to go back to Moses, go a little bit further, another, like 4,000 years or whatever it is. How can the people with God's own name, called by His name, given all this instruction, promise the fruit and fall again and again and again? They miss it. So what is the concept there? And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But this was so well understood that I want to give you one more verse and then show you how we know it's understood in Jesus' time by everyone. The promise to, at this time, they believed it was Israel. The branch is coming. All Israel who have escaped will bear much fruit. And then the next one is kind of washed out. I don't know if you can see it, but this is God's heartbreak in His disappointing vineyard. So this is, everybody understands the concept, but the point the scriptures bring out is that the people of God are not doing as they should. And, it's not just that your tomato plant has wilted or something, it's devastating. So in Isaiah 5, 1-6, this is God speaking, and He says, "Now let me sing to my well-beloved, a song of my beloved regarding his vineyard. My well-beloved has a vineyard on a very fruitful hill. He dug it up, cleared out its stones, and planted it with the choicest vine. He built a tower in its midst and also made a winepress in it. So He expected it to bring forth good grapes." He did everything that could be done that we're talking about. All of the, it's not even going through the motions, but all of the actions that could be taken, was just over and above. Very fruitful area, did everything that could be done, expected a good harvest, a good produce up from it. But it brought forth wild grapes. And in English, it's just very hard to catch that because you think good versus wild, you're not getting it. But wild grapes are poisonous. And Jesus in the New Testament talks about where the good grain is sown, the enemy comes and he brings forth the thistles. And this is the concept here. God did everything right in His vineyard, and it still brought forth sour, poisonous, false fruit. Oh, and now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, please, between me and my vineyard. And in the scriptures, the me and my are capitalized because this is God speaking. What more could have been done to my vineyard that I had not done in it? Why then, when I expected it to bring forth good grapes, did it bring forth wild grapes? And now, please, let me tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away its hedge, and it shall be burned. Break down its wall, and it shall be trampled down. I will lay it waste. So this is a very powerful message to Israel that they did not like. They understood it, because again, even when I was born, they're so clear in their minds that they're the people of God. I remember, you don't even go to the house of a non-Jew. You don't eat with them. You don't die. We keep to ourselves because we are God's people. And so this is not a good message to hear. Yeah, but you didn't take care of what I gave you, and I'm letting it go. I'm letting what happens to you happen to you. So they didn't like it in Isaiah's day. But now we come forward. And again, it's fast. I know I go through the whole Old Testament, but we go forward to Jesus this time. So there is, again, the glory of Solomon's temple, it's completely sacked. They didn't think it could happen. They're taken into captivity. But the promises will come back. It's Zechariah, it's Nehemiah, it's the priests and the prophets. They come back. Again, the temple is rebuilt, and then there's 400 years of silence. And I always tell people, if the few faithful under Zechariah, Ezra, Nehemiah had not gone back and rebuilt it, then there is no temple for the Messiah to walk in, to come to. And so they were a small but very faithful remnant. And then there's, as you know, when under Malachi, the Old Testament record ends, and it's 400 years before Jesus comes. We have historical accounts, the book of the Maccabees. We understand the history continues, the writings of the rabbis, and the Talmud, the Midrash, and all the commentaries. We have that historical, but there's nothing in the Bible record. And then Jesus enters the scene, and he's walking in the temple that was rebuilt and presenting himself, as I mentioned, like you can see it, of course, his own words, but also the Passover Seder. He's presenting himself, and he is the Lamb of God, and he's going to do what he came to do. And in between, he's trying to reach out to his countrymen to the famous, I think I mentioned in the last talk, when he's looking out over Jerusalem and he says, "Oh, Jerusalem, I wanted you to hear me. I wanted to bring you in like a hen gathers her chicks, and you wouldn't do it. And I got no choice now." So here, what we're going to look at is what happens in the parables related to the vine, the vineyard, and the branch. And when you connect all of the pieces, you don't really think about how many parables. I even had to go back and say, how many parables did Jesus teach about the vineyard? And you can kind of think, well, the gospel accounts, it's one story, but actually it's multiple stories that he talks about things occurring in a vineyard or the owner of the vineyard. And we're not going to go through them all tonight, but he did tell several. If you want to write it down, in Matthew 21, there are two separate ones. We're only going to talk about one tonight. There was the owner of the vineyard. Just in Matthew 21, there's other stories too. There's workers and so on. But in this one, there's the owner of the vineyard sending his two different sons to work. And that's the one we're not going to talk about. That's verses 28 to 32. But we're going to focus on the parable of the wicked servants in verses 33 to 41. And you're going to see that he's directly referencing what we just talked about in Isaiah 5. God's heartbreak over he's even going to use some of the same language. So they absolutely knew what he was talking about. Okay, Matthew 21, just to give the context, you all know that we call it, I had to learn the English of many of these things, but what you call Palm Sunday. Everybody is familiar with the people waving and, but what is happening on Palm Sunday, I'm not sure if you've ever understood, that there is an official messianic greeting. Remember, they all knew about the promise of the Messiah, the branch, the Jewish leaders. And so the official messianic greeting is that Baruch haba b'Shem Adonai, like you've come, blessed is he who has come in the name of the Lord. That's what they're saying on Palm Sunday. They're actually lining the streets believing and roaring and cheering and you're the Messiah, you're the branch, we've been waiting for you, here we are. It's all, hey, this is great. And then, of course, after that, they're waiting for him to do what they want him to do, which is to kick out the Romans, no more taxes, everything according to them. And I've been there. Like, as I've said to you many times, that, Lord, did you not get, like I had a list for you to do. You didn't follow my directions. Back up. I want to tell you again. And he's, of course, way bigger than me. So after this, what you see next is Jesus goes in and cleanses the temple. A lot of people don't realize he did that multiple times. It's not just different accounts of it. He actually goes in and cleanses the temple again. He says, y'all still not getting it. This is my Father's house. You're turned it into a den of thieves, and he actually kicks them out. And that at that point, the disconnect between the people having said he's the Messiah and him cleansing the temple, the Jewish leaders make up their mind they're going to turn against him. So this is happening in a short amount of time, and then he tells this parable. So Jesus has already seen and observed, I see these. You remember they're coming at him trying to, well, let me ask you this. And he sees right through it. So he tells this parable, and by there's a whole other thing there, but by Jewish law, they're still required to investigate him, and he knows that. And he knows that's what they're doing. And they similar to how they're just stunned by it, but they immediately get the meaning of what he answers them with. So what he says here is that, I'll read you a little bit of it in Matthew 21, verses 33 through 46. Hear another parable, he says to them. There was a certain landowner who planted a vineyard and set a hedge around it. I didn't have this up there, but I put it in bold. It's exactly what Isaiah said. A hedge around it, dug a wine press in, and built a tower. Remember those three key things? And he leased it to vine dressers and went into a far country. This ain't ours. He's telling you, this is not yours. This is our Father's. And you are the caretakers of it. But they knew this. Now, when vintage time drew near, he sent his servants to the wine dressers that they might receive its fruit. And the vine dressers took the servants, beat one, killed one, and stoned another. And we can go into what this means. He sent other servants, more than the first, and they did likewise to them. Then last of all, he sent his son to them, saying, they will respect my son. But when the vine dressers saw the son, they said among themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him and seize his inheritance. So they took him and cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. Jesus said to them, and he asked them, have you never read in the scriptures, the stone which the builders rejected became the chief cornerstone? And he goes into it. This was the Lord's doing. It was marvelous in our eyes. And I'm going to skip a little bit of it. He says, therefore I say to you, the kingdom of God will be taken from you and given to a nation bearing the fruits of it. And whoever falls on this stone will be broken, but on whomever it falls, it will grind him to powder. And watch this, the last part. Now when the chief priests and Pharisees heard this parable, his parables, they perceived that he was speaking of them. They got it. How did they get it? They knew about the branch. They knew about Isaiah. They knew from Isaiah already that the vineyard had been given to them, but the prophecy was that the fruit would not be good. They were hoping the time in Babylon was enough. They're back being good. It's all going to work out. He's going to be their pet Messiah and do what they want. And they get the message loud and clear. And it says, but when they sought to lay hands on him, they feared the multitudes because they took him for a prophet. So this is the indication they got the whole picture of what the branch, the vine, and the vineyard, what they had done wrong. And what is going to happen is they try to capture him, but there's too many people. They go back and they make the plot. And they're going to have the craziest kangaroo court. You know, by their own law, you can't even try a man at night. This is crazy. But they are so determined, so enraged, so full of hate. Exactly what the end. Remember, Isaiah stops. He doesn't say he sends his son and then they kill the son. But exactly what Jesus said is what they end up doing. And they prove him exactly right. And it fulfills exactly when he says, then whoever this stone falls on will be crushed. That's us when we turn to him and we see him. And our pride and our me, or whatever, we're crushed, and we can turn to him. But the ones who do not will be crushed by it. And that it will, as he said, be taken from them and given to others. And that's what happened as well, because the gospel starts out in Jewish hands. Paul even said to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. I grew up, I didn't even know it was for us. It was so separated. I didn't understand, I didn't know a single Jew could believe in Jesus. And I always tell people, though, if you saw it as I saw it 60 years ago and you see it now, the Jews are waking up. If you wonder how close we are to the end, there are more Jewish-led ministries in Israel right now than there were. There were 7 individuals when Israel was declared itself a nation in 1948. 7 Jews that said in Israel that said they were Jewish believers in Jesus. We don't know where they came from, but they were one family. 7. Now there are 300 ministries run by Jews in Israel, and more around the world. Last I heard, there's close to 1 million believers in Israel. So it's amazing, or possibly in Israel and around the world. But it is amazing that they're returning, but it is also amazing that it's an exact fulfillment of what he said, the vine and the vineyard taken away and given to someone else. So now I want to talk about us. Gee, I'm sorry, those are so light. I hope you guys can see those. Jesus talked about our time now. We're not in the time of Zechariah, the first temple. The second, that was destroyed in 586 BC. The second temple was destroyed in AD 70. I am asked all the time how close I think we are to the third temple. Separate teaching, but I think we're very, very close. In fact, I'm trying to decide if I should say it because I know it's going to get posted, but there's been chatter for a while out of Israel now that this meeting that is happening between Netanyahu and Trump we get alerts like Jews in Europe, hey, heads up, this is happening, this is, comes out. And that they told us about a week ago this was going to happen. I didn't believe it, but they said one of the things on the agenda is who controls the Temple Mount. Because we're tired of, when we go up there to pray, The last time a Jew, it was Itamar Ben-Gvir, Netanyahu's security advisor, he's actually the minister. When he went up there, he brought a shofar, the ram's horn. He literally walked on the Temple Mount and blew the horn, and I kid you not, the UN Security Council was in a full session in less than 24 hours. They feel it is so dangerous for Jews. You can't make this up. Not sure what they think the danger is, but how close are we? I can't say, but we're clearly not there yet. If you got on a plane and went over there, it's only that Western Wall. You can't have, a sin offering made. You can't have a peace offering made. You just can't do it. There's no functioning temple standing there. So we're therefore in the in-between. As Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me till I return. Well, he's not back yet. We would know. I think we would hear. The temple is not even built. We know, and that's again a separate teaching, but this third temple, we know from Daniel and from Revelation, we know that something major is going to happen, and it's not even built yet. So we're at least a year or two away from that. What do? We're here. We're the minority. We're stuck. We don't have the Vine, the Vineyard. We don't have access to the Jewish religious leaders, and I'm not sure we'd want them. We're the church, but what do? We can't do like the apostles in the time of the book of Acts, because it's not even politically correct anymore to do half that stuff in the town square. So this is what I think the answer to that is, and it's from John chapter 15. This is what Jesus talked about. He didn't say that we have to fix all that, all the problems. He didn't say you'll know exactly the day. We'll know the seasons, we'll know the times, but we don't know what tomorrow brings. This is hard. No disrespect, if your experience of being a Christian ain't hard, we've got some people here you might want to talk to. It's hard. And this is what he said. He said this to his followers. Again, the stone, the chief cornerstone, has fallen on us. We're broken, and we've turned to him. And he said, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. We got that, right? From Zechariah, from Isaiah, we understand. This is meaning God's vineyard. He is the vine, the true vine. We heard. He's the branch. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I've spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. This is a whole new restructuring. It's not who owns the vineyard. It's not the good and the sour. We are already clean. We are already washed, but we have to abide in him. This is not something they understood at all in the Old Testament. They couldn't see it. Their eyes were closed, Paul says in Romans. They had no idea you had to go back to the temple 3 times a day, 7 days a week, continue to do it, and just, it was a whole system. There's none of this concept of bearing fruit because we abide in him. So we've all heard this, right? We understand the concept. It's still hard to do. How do you abide in him? How do you pray without ceasing, and so on? And so this is where I had all this outline, and if you've heard me talk before, you know that I'm getting smarter, because I used to do the outline and then proudly show it to God And he'd kind of go, yeah. So what I want you to say is like, and that took me a while to learn that. I'm like, do you even understand what it is? Like, have you ever taught God? You know, yeah, he probably has. But this one, I stopped there and I really prayed about it, and I actually woke up with the verse that helped me to understand how to connect these. And it seemed out in left field at first. You're going to laugh. How do we do this? How do we abide in him? Okay, we got how we bear fruit. It's by abiding. How do we abide? And it's 1 Corinthians 13:13. At which point I said, Lord, are you on the same PowerPoint that I am? Because I had a different ending or whatever. And 1 Corinthians 13:13 said, and now these three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. And the word remain, if you look it up in Strong's Concordance, the Greek word is to stay, to abide, to remain. To abide, and the love is the agape love. Paul said, you beat yourself up, you die to yourself, you push yourself out of the way so that you can abide, remain, stay connected to the vine. You cannot bear fruit. The Jews tried it. They beat each other up. They tried to capture him. They did everything right, but they did not abide and stay connected to the vine. So the whole imagery here is to abide in him expectantly, because he said, you know, I'm gonna give you much fruit. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit. So it is okay. It is in ourselves. We do not need to be all of that, whatever that expression is, and a bag of chips. So I knew something I'd heard down here. Yeah, all that in a bag of chips. We don't need to. We don't need to be fantastic. We don't need to be excelling. And we just need to abide. Just stay connected to him. He will keep flowing. That juice that keeps producing the good fruit will keep being pumped through you as long as you abide, remain, stay, and you produce. The fruit comes from the agape love that I said at one other talk that we can't love. I can't even love my own kids in the way I should, but with him, I can produce much fruit. People can look and say, wow, what does she know? That's what I used to say all the time. And I said it about Loris, does that woman not realize she has no money? What is possible reason for having a smile on her face? Like, she should be miserable. How is she producing fruit? I didn't understand it. And I have one, okay, I was behind that. That was that slide. This is the last one. Okay, so then I was all proud of myself. I said, okay, I had, I even tried to tell Brother Dustin one time, maybe we need to put it off another week. I'm not sure I have. And he was like, you got it. You got it. So I was like, well, Lord, I just feel like there's something else. Maybe I'm missing it, but something else. And I realized when you look at the whole scope of the vine and the vineyard and the branches is something that's also taught to us as children in the Jewish tradition, because once a year, every year, you cut down branches and you go outside and you build your little sukkot. It's a little booth, a little hut. And so it's like taking it apart. Like if you wanted to tell somebody how to, whatever it is, either hunting or something that you do here all the time, and somebody isn't from Louisiana, like boiled crawfish, they always look like, you what? But everybody knows somebody who does that. You know what to buy, you know what to do. This is the same thing. Every year in the cycle of the Jewish festivals, it begins with Passover. It always begins with Passover. It began with the sacrificial death of the lamb, the once and final atonement for our sins. We are taught that. Moses was told, start the calendar from here. I mean, you can't miss that. It starts with the Passover. But many people miss, they even know about trumpets, they even know about atonement, but they don't know about the booths or what it means. And every year as a little kid, my favorite memories were about that. My dad would go out, we'd cut down branches, and we'd weave them together, and we'd take vines. And then we'd put the vines through them, and we'd hang like lemons or different things off of it, fruit off it. And the idea is you go out in your backyard, and you look up, you have your meal there. It doesn't have to be fancy. If you look it up on the internet, you'll see some people do it, with branches covering sheets. Or it doesn't have to be a big deal, but it is told to us that we're doing it to remember our exodus, the time that we were in the desert for 40 years. This is a common theme in Judaism. We were strangers, we were outside our land, we were sojourners, and our people didn't have anything. We had temporary structures. There's the key, the temporary structure. And as a little kid, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I'll never forget one year at our synagogue, we had a contest, and the rabbis would always walk. That's how you knew we lived in a Jewish community. They'd walk from home to home and study and look at, and then go inside and look up at the branches and the vines and the fruit. And I thought, man, how did I miss what God's message is about the vine and the branches and the fruit? I forgot to say about this. And I won third place one year, by the way. But what is this telling us? He said, abide in me, right? That's what we talked about all night. Abide in him. He is the vine, we're the branches, we abide. But abide is temporary. Abide is short term. That's why we have a word, abode. Like it's where you live right now. But it's not a forever, right? This pictures are forever. This is the promise that we're waiting on. We can put up with this. We can put up with the hardship of being connected to him, all the slings and arrows, everything that comes against us, because as we're doing that, we're looking forward to the kingdom. And in the kingdom, the promise is, in Revelation 21:3, and I heard a loud voice from heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. God himself will be with them and be their God. So the entire system of the vine and the branches that all Israel missed, that gave us our promise, that because they didn't listen, they were put out, it was given to another people. And now we can be connected to them, and that's awesome. But we're still just here for a short time. But the permanent, the dwelling forever and ever and ever, the reason he told us to build that little booth, which is called the Feast of Tabernacles, is so we would understand this vine is only for a short time, this being connected. Then we dwell with him, we see him, we live forever with him, face to face. So it is a preview of what is coming, which is so much greater. And that means we can get up every day and stay connected to the vine. Amen.